Bienvenidos al 20º Congreso Internacional de Innovación Tecnológica e Informática 2022, organizado por la Facultad de Tecnología e Informática de la Universidad Abierta Interamericana, su Centro de Altos Estudios Ciiti y el Comité Asesor del Congreso, integrado por destacados profesionales del ámbito académico, gubernamental y empresarial nacional e internacional. El presente Congreso ha sido declarado de interés por la Honorable Cámara de Senadores de la Nación, de interés educativo, científico y tecnológico por la Legislatura de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires, Gobierno de la Provincia de Santa Fe y la Municipalidad de Rosario. Cuenta con el auspicio de embajadas, Embajada de Italia, Embajada de la India, Embajada de Cuba, Embajada del Estado Plurinacional de Bolivia. También contamos con auspicios académicos de universidades nacionales e internacionales, Universidad Tecnológica Nacional a través de sus regionales, Universidad Nacional de Rosario, Universidad Nacional de La Plata, Universidad FASTA, Universidad de La Matanza, Universidad Nacional de Jujuy, Universidad de Río Negro, Universidad Nacional de Lomas de Zamora, Universidad Nacional de Luján, Universidad Nacional de Quilmes, Universidad Nacional de la Patagonia Austral, Universidad Nacional de Entre Ríos y Universidad Nacional de Mar del Plata. Universidades internacionales: Montclair State University, Ohio State University, Michigan State University, University of California, todas de los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. Universidad de Deusto, España. Centro Universitario de Minas Gerais, Brasil. Universidad Bernardo O'Higgins y Universidad San Sebastián de Chile. Universidad Autónoma de Encarnación, Paraguay. Universidad San Ignacio de Loyola y Universidad Privada del Norte de Perú. Y Universidad Tecnológica de Tulancingo, México. Contamos también con auspicios de cámaras del sector tecnológico y asociaciones profesionales y organizaciones no gubernamentales. CONFEDI, Consejos de Decano de la Facultad de Ingeniería. IEEE, Capítulo Argentino. SICOMRA, Cámara de Informática y Comunicaciones de la República Argentina. CESI, Cámara de Empresas de Software y Servicios Informáticos. COPITEC, Consejo Profesional de Ingeniería, de Telecomunicaciones, Electrónica y Computación. Polo IT Buenos Aires, Polo IT Rosario. CPCI, Consejo Profesional de Ciencias Informáticas de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires, Fundesco. Además también auspicios del sector empresario: Entology, Banco Santander, Zoom, Exo, Microsoft, IBM, BN Power, Virtual World, Chifast, Revista Innovación, Powersa, Hotel Esplendor, Rosenthal y Radio One 103.7. A todos agradecemos sus auspicios y seguiremos mencionando al resto de los auspiciantes a lo largo del Congreso. También queremos agradecer la presencia de autoridades nacionales e internacionales en el inicio de este Congreso. Eduardo Til, subdirector de Información, Ministerio de Gobierno de la Provincia de Buenos Aires. Doctora Ingeniera Zulma Farfán, directora Maestría en Tecnología de la Información y la Comunicación para la Educación y Aprendizaje Digital, Universidad de Nebrija, España. Ingeniera María Peralta, presidente de la Comisión Ad Hoc Mujer en Ingeniería, CONFEDI, decana Facultad de Ingeniería UNICEN. Licenciada Fernanda Bernabé, decana de la Facultad de Ciencias Empresariales y Gestión Pública, Universidad de Champagnat. Licenciado Carlos Tomasino, presidente del Consejo Profesional de Ciencias Informáticas, presidente de Fundesco y Red Metro. Ingeniero Damián Herrera, presidente de Microsoft User Group. Y además también agradecemos la presencia de la diputada de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires, Carolina Estebanera. De igual forma, seguiremos mencionando al resto de las personalidades en la medida en que me confirmen la acreditación. También agradecemos los telegramas de augurios de éxitos recibidos y aquellos que también nos están saludando a través del streaming, ingresando por la página web del Congreso. Y por supuesto a todos ustedes, al público en general que nos está acompañando en el inicio de este Ciiti. Y ahora sí, antes de dar comienzo a la apertura oficial del Congreso, queremos contarles que si necesitan traducción, podrán elegir el idioma en el icono Interpretación que encontrarán en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Asimismo, los que deseen realizar preguntas en cada uno de los bloques podrán escribirlas accediendo al icono de preguntas y respuestas. Estas preguntas serán respondidas por los panelistas al finalizar cada bloque. Y además, algo que seguramente les va a resultar interesante, queremos invitarnos a que nos sigan por Twitter, en el usuario @Ciiti, #Ciiti, y de esta forma podrán participar por 1 millón de pesos en premios que se sortearán a lo largo del Congreso. En el inicio de cada módulo avisaremos el hashtag correspondiente para así participar de los sorteos de cada bloque. Habrá 2 ganadores por bloque, se informarán por Twitter la división de premios entre los asistentes que más tuitearon. Pero además, al cierre del evento, tendremos otro sorteo especial con 2 grandes premios, 2 notebooks Exot Smart L37E Plus. Por lo tanto, en este caso será condición para poder formar parte de este último sorteo, haber tuiteado en todos los bloques del Congreso y estar online al cierre del evento. Estimados, ya pueden comenzar entonces a tuitear @Ciiti, #Ciiti, y así participar de estos sorteos. Y ahora sí vamos a dar comienzo al acto inaugural del 20º Ciiti 2022, para lo cual contamos con la presencia de Dr. Marcelo De Vincenzi, vicerrector de Gestión y Evaluación, decano de la Facultad de Tecnología e Informática de la UAI y presidente del Congreso. Doctora Claudia Pons, directora del Centro de Altos Estudios e Investigaciones de la Facultad de Tecnología e Informática, CAETI, y directora técnica del Ciiti. Virgin Milton, Chairman and CEO de la empresa internacional de servicios tecnológicos educativos Anthology. Invitamos al doctor Marcelo De Vincenzi, presidente del Congreso, a que nos dirija la palabra. Muy buenos días, doctor.
Muy buenos días, un gusto realmente poder compartir nuevamente este Congreso. Son 20 años que venimos llevando a cabo esta actividad, sobre todo nos llena de orgullo, sobre todo por lo que significa para nosotros y para nuestra comunidad, reflexionar sobre la innovación tecnológica y el concepto de la informática como fenómeno social, ¿no? Cómo desde la informática podemos trascender. Este proyecto, este congreso, está en el marco de un proyecto integral, que es un observatorio de tendencias tecnológicas, que sumado a ciclos de conferencias, ateneos y seminarios que venimos haciendo durante todo el año, y a la revista RAIA, que es la revista científica, conforman realmente un ecosistema tecnológico que nos permite poder ver cómo es el termómetro de esta innovación. 19 ediciones fueron ininterrumpidas que llevamos a cabo la actividad. Ni siquiera la pandemia realmente nos pudo parar y nos pudimos reinventar para poder llevarlo a cabo. Y nuevamente estamos acá abordando y apoyando lo que es la contribución a la formación del capital humano de nuestra humanidad, ¿no? Comprender también que realmente todo esto es interdisciplinario y requiere realmente de los esfuerzos de cada uno de nosotros para poder hacer que esta tecnología sea productiva. Este congreso tiene un consejo asesor, que realmente a quien también quiero agradecer, sobre todo porque estas 45 representantes nacionales e internacionales realmente no han descansado, al igual que el comité organizador, para hacer que este evento se lleve a cabo, y esperamos que realmente todos ustedes lo puedan disfrutar. Contamos con, bueno, si nosotros sumamos más o menos la cantidad de gente que ha participado de este congreso, estamos hablando de más de 50.000 personas, donde en sus capítulos de Buenos Aires y ahora en este capítulo virtual, realmente cada vez engrosan este número. Este congreso está representado en 16 países extranjeros, representado por supuesto la Argentina, pero está también China, Estados Unidos, la India, Francia, Brasil, Canadá, España, Polonia, Finlandia, Dinamarca, Venezuela, Colombia, México, Uruguay y Chile. Todos estos países, en cierta forma, participan en nuestros plenarios, como el evento que estamos llevando a cabo, como también en las conferencias inaugurales, como en los seminarios, y generan revuelta este ecosistema de tecnología. Y cuando nosotros empezamos en el año 2003, pensamos en hablar sobre la integración estratégica que requería la articulación y este círculo virtuoso del Estado, empresa y universidad. Seguimos pensando en que necesitamos ver la industria IT como un motor de crecimiento nacional. Entendimos que el emprendedurismo era una pieza fundamental en todo lo que es la sociedad del conocimiento. Hablamos de la web 2.0 en el año 2009. Hablamos de la interacción hombre-máquina en el año 2011. Empezamos a entender el lenguaje natural que tenían que las máquinas comunicarse de esa forma. Empezamos a incorporar palabras como la ubicuidad. Hablamos del ser digital. Entramos en una instancia en el año 2018 sobre lo que es la singularidad de la tecnología informática y la autosuficiencia de esta tecnología. Y el año pasado cerramos el Ciiti en el 2021 hablando de la fast lane del futuro digital. Bueno, y ahora sí, este año vamos a hablar de las máquinas que aprenden y transforman el humanware. Yo creo que este tema, el eje tal como lo expresamos, dice muchísimo realmente y genera también un montón de interrogantes. Cuando hablamos y pensamos en las máquinas que aprenden, pensamos que estas máquinas cada vez están más involucradas con nosotros, cada vez nos ayudan a poder tomar decisiones más inteligentes, cada vez también invaden nuestra zona de confort, es decir, invaden nuestro espacio de trabajo, muchas veces hasta nos reemplazan y lo hacen mucho mejor la tarea rutinaria que lo que hacemos nosotros. Otras veces nos acompañan y son una pieza fundamental y un socio silencioso que sin ellos, lamentablemente, esa tarea no la podríamos hacer, especialmente en temas de salud y en temas de administración de infraestructuras críticas. Y a través de la inteligencia artificial, machine learning, la realidad aumentada, realmente generan un montón también de oportunidades, ¿no? Oportunidades que tenemos que explorar desde las políticas inclusivas, flexibles, que realmente promuevan este trabajo remoto y de home office, que de vuelta, esta es la segunda parte, que transforma nuestro humanware. Es decir, este trabajo remoto y home office, que cada vez se hace más realidad y más natural. Antes, 2019, veíamos el tema del home office en algunas áreas, algo como posible y una commodity para otros niveles de trabajo. Esto ha cambiado, realmente no hay trabajo que la cual no ha sido tocado por esta tecnología. Y eso se ha producido por esta aceleración que se ha generado en estos últimos 2 años de confinamiento que realmente tenemos que vivir, sobre todo por el problema del COVID-19. Bueno, el mundo está cambiando, cambiamos rápidamente la materia y la reemplazamos por energía. Cuando decimos eso, estamos diciendo que estamos reemplazando los átomos por bits. Estamos cada vez más involucrados en la era digital. Cada vez las políticas, y les pedimos a nuestros políticos, políticas públicas, como bien digo, que realmente favorezcan a servicios de gobierno electrónico, que generen confianza en el trato de datos, en la visión estratégica, que permita poder construir y formar perfiles profesionales. Y también, cuando hablamos de gobierno, también hablamos de la universidad, ¿no? Estamos nosotros también sumamente involucrados en este tema. También es muy importante que la empresa, que es otro de las piezas fundamentales en este triángulo virtuoso, realmente fomente la innovación en el management, que favorezca el desarrollo del capital humano en las tecnologías, fomente también el liderazgo, el emprendedurismo, la creatividad, que a través de la inteligencia artificial y la computación cuántica, a través de las ciencias y oportunidades de intercambio en temas de criptomonedas, realmente nos muestren una realidad diferente, ¿no? Y de esto ahora van a ver que vamos a estar hablando, ¿no? En poco tiempo. También lo vamos a ver desde el punto de vista de la robótica. ¿Por qué la robótica? Porque cuando hablamos de un robot no solamente hablamos de robots físicos, sino que hablamos de robots lógicos, robots de software, que con sus nuevos protocolos e interfaces de comunicación cada vez hace más natural la forma de dialogar. Vamos a ver en el bloque de robótica algunos intercambios y algunas prácticas que se van a llevar, que van a poder interactuar con ustedes desde su espacio donde están realmente conectados en el Congreso. Vamos a hablar también de cibercultura y ahí vamos a hacer foco en dos temas. Uno, el tema de las finanzas y otro es lo que es el comercio electrónico. Vamos a ver cómo las finanzas, realmente cómo hemos cambiado nuestros hábitos de ahorrar, cómo realmente vemos con buenos ojos en algunos casos las criptomonedas, y si nosotros nos ponemos a pensar qué es una criptomoneda, es solamente unidades digitales que no son tangibles y en las cuales hasta podemos comprar casas, autos y realmente tiene una disponibilidad muy exitoso, al punto de que países como Salvador o Bielorrusia han tomado la criptomoneda como el Bitcoin como una moneda de reserva para el país, ¿no? Y esto realmente nos hace pensar, ¿realmente estarán equivocados o somos realmente los que son más conservadores los que están equivocados? Bueno, todos estos hábitos se están transformando. Lo que es los temas que tienen que ver con el machine learning y las estructuras de predicción sobre los distintos sucesos también están presentes en las finanzas, pero también están en el comercio electrónico, ¿no? Y todo esto también lo vamos a ir avanzando. Así que más de 15 distinguidos investigadores se van a dar cita en este congreso, acompañados por 6 moderadores que van a, con su expertise y con su experiencia, van a hacer de esta jornada lo mejor de lo que nosotros vamos a poder hacer. Entonces, para poder dar y cobrar un poquito de idea de lo que vamos a vislumbrar, yo quisiera compartir con ustedes un video, ¿no? Javier. Bueno, como verán, este video realmente representa cierta forma en imágenes lo que queremos transmitirles y que quiero agradecer realmente a nuestro estudio de televisión de la Universidad Interamericana que haya podido representarlo también. Nosotros desde Ciiti queremos seguir aportando al conocimiento y las ventajas de una sociedad más reflexiva y que realmente se apropie de esta oportunidad de generar innovación en tecnología informática. Queremos ser y seguir siendo inspiradores en las personas como ustedes para que se embarquen en el camino del emprendedurismo y de la innovación tecnológica. Queremos contribuir de una forma activa a la formación del capital humano, a este humanware, capaz de comprender los procesos de la sociedad y el enfoque interdisciplinario. Y por sobre todo, queremos convertir estos signos de interrogación en exclamación. Para poder terminar mi introducción, quiero decir que, bueno, para reducir esta brecha digital en la cual nos vemos inmersos, debemos involucrarnos por medio de una participación activa. No dejemos que este tren del progreso se nos vaya, subamos en los vagones, de los primeros vagones del centro de ser posible, y no dejemos que la ignorancia nos gane. Y por último, quiero realmente dedicarle este congreso a un amigo que realmente hace un par de años que se nos fue con la pandemia, que es un compañero de la vida, que es el ingeniero Daniel Tedini, que seguro que nos va a estar acompañando desde allá y haciendo fuerza como siempre nos ha hecho durante estos eventos. Así que muchísimas gracias y muy buenos días a todos.
Muchas gracias, doctor. Y bueno, puesta después de su última mención, compartimos realmente todos lo que acaba de decir. Pero esto debe continuar, ¿no es cierto? Y él también se hubiese sumado a que esto continuara. Por lo tanto, invitamos a la doctora Claudia Pons, ¿sí?, directora del Centro de Altos Estudios e Investigación de la Facultad de Tecnología Informática Ciiti y directora técnica del Ciiti, a que nos dirija una palabra, por favor. Doctora.
Gracias, Delmar. Buenos días a todos, bienvenidos al Ciiti. Bueno, es un placer y un honor para mí estar participando en el Ciiti. Este congreso, bueno, que desde hace exactamente 20 años genera este espacio de reflexión sobre los avances de las tecnologías informáticas y especialmente de su impacto sobre nuestras vidas. Durante toda esta jornada estaremos inmersos en este mundo fascinante y complejo de las nuevas tecnologías informáticas, analizándolas desde sus diferentes facetas. En particular, en estos últimos años hemos observado grandes contrastes respecto a las tecnologías. Por un lado, por ejemplo, hemos visto tecnologías de Big Data, inteligencia artificial, aplicadas al desarrollo de vacunas que permitieron salvar la vida de millones de personas. Pero también hemos visto esas mismas tecnologías informáticas usadas para destruir vidas humanas en una guerra en Europa. Por este motivo es muy importante el rol que tiene el Ciiti para concientizar acerca no solo de los avances, sino también de los impactos de estas nuevas tecnologías. En este contexto debemos enfatizar el concepto de tecnología adecuada o apropiada, que es aquella tecnología que está diseñada con especial atención a los aspectos medioambientales, éticos, culturales, sociales, económicos, inherentes a la comunidad a la que se dirige esta tecnología. Si decimos que se considera que una tecnología es adecuada cuando tiene efectos beneficiosos sobre las personas y el medio ambiente, y la podemos identificar porque no causa daño previsible a las personas, ni daño innecesario a las restantes formas de vida, como los animales y las plantas. Estas tecnologías adecuadas no comprometen de modo irrecuperable el patrimonio natural de las futuras generaciones, mejoran las condiciones básicas de vida de todas las personas, independientemente de su poder adquisitivo o su condición social. No son coercitivas respecto a los derechos y posibilidades de elección de los usuarios, ya sea voluntarios de estas tecnologías o de los sujetos involuntarios afectados por estas tecnologías. Las tecnologías adecuadas no tienen efectos generalizados irreversibles, aunque aparezcan a simple vista como beneficiosos o neutros, y priorizan la satisfacción de las necesidades humanas básicas alimentación, vestimenta, vivienda, salud, educación, seguridad personal, participación social, trabajo. Pero bueno, ¿de qué depende el desarrollo y preeminencia de estas tecnologías adecuadas, apropiadas? Nosotros creemos que depende principalmente de la disponibilidad de profesionales con habilidades técnicas para desarrollarlas, pero también requiere que estos profesionales entiendan que el adelanto tecnológico debe estar al servicio del desarrollo humano y de la libertad. En ese sentido, tenemos que adecuar nuestros sistemas educativos para que puedan preparar a estos profesionales que ocuparán las nuevas posiciones laborales y especialmente de liderazgo en diferentes perfiles, especializaciones y niveles de aprendizaje. En esta dirección, nuestro Congreso, el Ciiti, contribuye fuertemente a la formación de dicho capital intelectual, con sólidos conocimientos técnicos, pero además capaz de comprender los procesos de la nueva sociedad desde un enfoque responsable y humano. Como conclusión, quiero destacar que año tras año el Ciiti corrobora y proclama que el desarrollo estratégico y responsable de las nuevas tecnologías informáticas es un pilar fundamental para el crecimiento equitativo y sustentable de la sociedad. Y en esto, desde el Ciiti, nosotros ponemos nuestro mayor esfuerzo. Bueno, les deseo una jornada muy productiva y que disfruten mucho del Ciiti. Gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, doctora, por su participación. Y ahora sí, para continuar con el acto inaugural de este Ciiti 2022, ingresamos en el primer bloque, el de apertura e innovación, máquinas que aprenden y transforman el hardware, para lo cual invitamos a todos los participantes que puedan comenzar a tuitear, usando el @Ciiti, #Ciiti, #innovación, y así participar por los siguientes premios: una tarjeta Amazon, 2 cascos virtuales, un ebook descargable, 2 experiencias Big Box y 2 becas del 100% en cursos de manejo de dron. Se seleccionarán 2 ganadores entre todos los asistentes más activos con el Twitter, los cuales serán anunciados al inicio del bloque de robótica. También les recuerdo que si necesitan traducción, podrán elegir el idioma en el icono Interpretación, que van a encontrar en la parte inferior de la pantalla. Asimismo, los que deseen realizar preguntas podrán escribirlas accediendo al icono de preguntas y respuestas, las cuales serán respondidas por los panelistas al finalizar el bloque. Y ahora sí ingresamos de lleno en este primer bloque, para lo cual vamos a tener nuestro primer keynote speaker, al BA Jim Milton, quien nos dirigirá unas palabras, para lo cual solicito al doctor Marcelo De Vincenzi, presidente del Congreso, que realice la presentación pertinente y la moderación del bloque. Doctor.
Gracias, Edelmar. Hello, Jim. Welcome to the 20th Ciiti 2022. This is our first session of the Congress, and we are very glad to have you here. You know, we know that you are having some problems with a young hurricane, so I would hope that you are okay.
I am. Thank you very much. For those of you watching on Zoom, you can probably see my backdrop. My apologies, I don't have the city backdrop behind me. This is actually a hotel room in Newark, New Jersey, since I was unable to make it back to my home state of Florida, which of course was hit by Hurricane Ian. And my thoughts and prayers go out to all of the citizens of Florida, certainly of Cuba and other islands that have been in the path of Hurricane Ian here. So that's why I'm in a hotel room here, Marcello.
Thank you. Let me do a formal introduction of you. Jim Milton has a bachelor's degree in math from the University of Waterloo and Waterloo, Canada. He's a chairman and a chief executive officer at Ontology, with more than 30 years of technology leadership experience. He has successfully led products expansion, mergings, acquisitions, sales strategies, and more. Shim dedicated to create the industry most powerful and impactful suite of tools and solutions, and believes through the collaboration and innovation, he can create a new technology that transforms the lives of students and campuses in a way that have only just begun to imagine. Prior to Anthology, Shim was responsible to leading a campus management team towards delivering superior student information system, ERP, CRM solutions, and higher education institutions globally. Previously, he was a CEO of two publicly traded technology companies, Soundbite Communications and Intervoice, and also 20 years of careers in various executive roles at HP, Compaq Computers, and Digital Equipment. Shim, you have a very impressive technology background and extensive experience in education technology and ED technologies. So why don't you tell us about the perception that you have about the educational global shift?
Okay, thank you. And I hope you can see my screen now, Marcello. Again,
Perfect.
my apologies for coming to you from a hotel room, but I really appreciate that kind introduction. And I apologize to this audience as well that I don't speak Spanish. I speak a little French, having grown up in Canada, but not Spanish. And a reminder that there is a translation feature at the bottom right-hand part of your screen as well. So I'd like to start off by just kind of setting a little bit of background on who Anthology is, because I suspect many of the folks in the audience don't know us, have not heard of us. And that's probably because actually we were formed as a company only a little more than 2 years ago in July of 2020 through the combination of 3 complementary education technology companies. Campus Management, as Marcello mentioned, I was the CEO of Campus Management at that time, Campus Labs, and iModules. These are all US-based companies, all selling, developing and selling solutions predominantly for higher education, and all 3 combined. And then in October of last year, actually on October 25th of last year, we combined with Blackboard, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, a leader in the learning management system marketplace. And together, we became Anthology, one of the largest education technology companies in the world. And our headquarters is in Boca Raton, Florida. We have close to 4,000 employees located in 20 countries around the world. And I was able to advance my slide. So if you look at just kind of our footprint, as we oftentimes say in terms of our client footprint, we have over 4,000 college and university clients around the world. In fact, in over 80 countries around the world. We have dozens of industry leading and uniquely deployable solutions across what we call the full student or learner life cycle, and have solutions for virtually every department at a college or a university. And we have a staggering, just an incredible number of learners, educators, and administrators that use our tools, over 150 million. And somebody had pointed out to me the other day, interestingly, that if we counted those as individuals, if you will, like a country, citizens of a country, we would be the 9th largest country in the world. And we're very honored to serve the global education community, and are honored to be partnered with, I know, many of you here in the audience today. So if you look at what I like to say, and as I mentioned, as Marcello mentioned as well, I received my degree from the University of Waterloo in Canada. So I learned a little French growing up, and I like to refer to this as our raison d'etre slide, or our reason for existence, which is really our vision and mission as a company. And we're very passionate about what we do and are very mission focused, like I know all of you are as well. And we believe that education has the power to transform lives. Now, our vision is what we would like to see for global education. I think very germane to this conference. really an infinite world of learning without boundaries. And our mission is really our role to help get you and the industry there. We believe very strongly that education technology, or ed tech, by the way, for short, you'll hear it oftentimes referred to as ed tech, can be a great equalizer by removing the technological impediments preventing the achievement of this vision. And we created Anthology specifically to accelerate the removing of many of the technological impediments towards making this happen, especially at the data level. And today we stand at a turning point where we believe that data has the power to transform the educational experience, helping learners and institutions improve outcomes and achieve their goals. But let me step back for just a moment to talk a little bit about the history of ed tech and really lay the foundation for understanding the transformation that we see unfolding as we step into this new phase of ed tech. First up is what we call the retrofitting phase. And this is when many of us would remember mainframe computing ruling the IT landscape. In fact, I received my degree back in this period of time. I won't tell you exactly when in this period, but I started off working on mainframe computers back in those days. Education at that time used technologies created for use outside the education space to enhance the learner's experience. You can think of devices, physical devices like the overhead projector as one example. I'm sure many of you actually still use that today, but that would be an example of a device that was designed outside of education, used within education. You forward to 1990 to 2010 period of time, and we refer to this as the emergence phase. And this is when education technology, or ed tech, really became its own industry. Foundational ed tech tools that we know today were invented during this time. Tools emerged like the learning management system, which Blackboard brought into the market in 1997. You started to see student information systems, or SIS, come out into the market, like our own solution as well, called Anthology Student. Moving forward, really to the past decade or so, we've seen innovation within ed tech take on new speed, and certainly with personal devices coming out in the multitudes at this period of time. And this really became what we refer to as the proliferation phase. And leaders at institutions continued leading digital transformation with all kinds of new technology. But here's the challenge. These tools were disparate. They didn't work well together. And of course, as was mentioned in the opening remarks, at the very end of this proliferation phase, the pandemic sparked an adoption of ed tech that the world had never seen before, as learners around the world moved to remote instruction. It truly marked a global shift. For the student, it opened possibilities to access education in a manner that works best for them, oftentimes what we refer to as a hybrid model. And as a result of that massive move online, the disparate data sources, however, that were created by this proliferation phase now had infinitely more data points. And that brings us really to today, what we call the holistic phase, where data unleashes possibilities to meet the needs of our students by connecting experiences across the educational journey. But this requires cross-solution interoperability, insights that are automatically served up at the right time, and putting learner success at the center of all that we do. Now, this need is supported from the results of a survey that we recently conducted and released at the UNESCO Global Education Summit earlier this year. We surveyed over 2,500 higher education leaders in 10 countries. And 94% of those leaders confirmed that they are looking for new opportunities to aggregate and analyze student data as they consider the learner needs of the future. By providing a holistic approach, we believe we're opening the door to a blending of data and experiences. And we see two fundamental opportunities. First, using data to enhance operations, and second, and I would argue more importantly, leveraging that data to personalize data experiences to empower
Para
action.
mejorar las experiencias educativas y personalizarlas para empoderar la acción.
By leveraging the underlying data to enhance operations, leaders can improve the efficiency and effectiveness of their institution and improve retention. And by personalizing data experiences to empower action, educators can be better able to unlock the learning potential of each individual and support them on their educational journey, thereby improving outcomes. And we think of outcomes oftentimes in higher education in a number of different manners, but certainly persistence and graduation rates are two of those important measures as well. So at Anthology, we bring this to you through something we think of as intelligent experiences, or IX. We're connecting the dots from across the EdTech ecosystem by synthesizing data. This will create more relevant interactions for anyone who's using one of our solutions. It will pair unique insights from multiple systems to help learners stay on track, and anyone who supports learners to support them best. Now, a learner doesn't only function inside one system. It takes a holistic approach. But we also understand that bringing data together across the client's EdTech ecosystem can raise concerns or questions. This was covered a little bit earlier. For us, developing these intelligent experiences goes hand in hand with high standards of privacy and security. That's vitally important. And with intelligent experiences, we can improve the experience of students, faculty, and administrators. And maybe a few examples would help. A student feels more than just a number because an advisor reaches out and recommends a course change based on the student's involvement in related clubs. A faculty member gets a prompt to shift from audio to video content to better support a struggling learner in their class. Or a success coach is encouraged to reach out to a student who is at risk of dropping out and engages them just in time. These are just a few examples of what intelligent experiences will be able to enable. And we're excited about the possibilities about what's ahead in education as we enter in this next phase, this holistic phase in the evolution of EdTech. But let me close my very brief remarks, Marcello, by thanking all of you that are in education and helping to transform the lives of the learners and the students that you serve. And Marcello, I think I'm going to turn it back to you now to open it up for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Actually, you really make me think about a lot of things about what you said. Mainly because we can say that Anthology right now is one of the most global influence company of EdTech because of all the companies that represent, including Blackboard. Blackboard is one of the products that we use for virtual for our virtual education. But probably the audience that probably they don't know much about Anthology might think is what differentiate Anthology from other on the market, especially if we look toward the next phase of EdTech innovation.
Yeah, thank you for that question. And I tried to make my opening remarks much more generic, obviously, for what we see as the challenges facing education technology moving forward broadly, by the way, in this holistic phase, and not get too specific on what we offer in the market. But now that you've asked, I will say that what we believe is a key element of our differentiation, if you will, is the unmatched set of solutions that we bring together to the market as one company. And that allows for tighter integration between those solutions. But I should point out as well, we also recognize that in particular in higher education, it's a very heterogeneous world where there are applications from all kinds of different vendors as well that we have to integrate to in order to deliver on the promise of intelligent experiences. But the fact that we have most of the, what we like to say in English, the 3-letter acronyms, SIS, LMS, CRM, ERP, we have all of those solutions that we bring together that allows us to kind of solve a lot of the data level issues that I was referencing in my opening remarks, so that we can deliver on intelligent experiences much more seamlessly when clients buy more solutions from us. So it's kind of a better together message. And really to a large extent, our 1,000, I didn't mention this, we have 1,000 developers who work for our company, can work on really delivering value at that experiential layer, as we call it, of the architecture. So it's really the holistic nature of what we bring to market, as well as the fact that we are truly global, and as I mentioned, in over 80 countries around the world.
So yeah, you told us about that you have, or the company Ontology has 1,000 developers working for EdTech. So what are some of the innovative things that Ontology is doing today in that matter? What is this? What for your perspective, what do you think? What do you wanted to tell us?
Yeah, so you would hope with 1,000 developers that there's a lot of innovation coming out every day, and we truly are. We call it, by the way, internally, courageous innovation, because we want people to constantly push the envelope and kind of try and solve those problems within our company, if you will, and integrating solutions and making them as easy to use as possible, so that you don't have to solve those problems, within for example, a college or a university. But maybe just I could highlight one example of innovation that we're really proud of. And many of the folks in the audience may be aware of a solution called Ally, now called Anthology Ally. This particular solution, and I think very appropriate for this conference, uses at its core machine learning to help institutions make digital course content more accessible. And we're really proud of that, because it really plays to our vision and our mission as well, to make colleges, the educational experience, if you will, more accessible. It also provides instructors, for those of you who haven't used it, recommendations to improve their digital content and make it more accessible. It also enables learners to access content in different formats, so they can access learning materials in a way that works best for them. And I should point out as well, as I mentioned before, where we understand we live in a very heterogeneous world. It can work with any learning management system out there, not just our own as well. So maybe that's one example, Marcello, of innovation we're particularly proud of. But I could go on and on and on, and I have limited time here, so I'll stop there.
Yes, it's very important, because it helps us to work with our mission of inclusion.
Nos ayuden a trabajar en esta misión de inclusión.
In education unfolding, meaning to say, personalization is some of the matters that
Queremos saber qué pasa con la personalización.
Yeah, it's a great question, and thank you for asking that, because it's interesting. And you see in education, in some cases, education and the use of education technology is very advanced. In some areas, it's been lagging behind. And I would argue in this whole personalization area, as an industry, okay, let's talk about education as an industry, that there are other industries that have moved more rapidly in the area of personalization. I would argue here in the US, where I am today, retail, for example, healthcare, has probably a little bit ahead of education. And but it's also interesting, and part of when I went through that very quick evolution of education technology and introduced this idea of the holistic phase, in some respects, moving into a holistic phase is a prerequisite for true personalization. What do I mean by that? If I have a bunch of disjointed applications with, as we typically do, by the way, in a college or a university, and they don't really talk well together, and now you have a learner or a student that you're interfacing with, if those systems aren't in the data, especially at the data level, aren't connected, then how am I going to more personalize my interaction with that student? Let's say it's Jim Milton attending your university. If I don't know the number of interactions that I would have at your university, numbers in the tens of thousands. And if I'm not learning more about Jim, sort of understanding him more, what motivates him, then how can I be successful? So this is really a key part of this holistic phase, is moving to personalization. Oftentimes people refer to this, by the way, I always chuckle when I hear the Amazon experience. Or for those of you, I'm not sure how pervasive Netflix is in some of the countries, but learning more about what I liked. I mean, originally Amazon was a bookstore, right? An online bookstore. And one of their big advantages was that they could serve up books to you that, Marcello, you might be interested in based on your previous reading. I mean, that's personalization, right? That's a fairly simple example of personalization. But in education, I think we have that opportunity, but it really requires breaking down those barriers at the data level, those structural impediments, if you will, that exist, and starting to leverage more capabilities like machine learning and artificial intelligence, because you have to be able to do it at scale. So personalization at scale is a big challenge and opportunity moving forward. So again, I could spend an hour on this subject, but I'll pause there.
No, we're very glad to hear. Actually, you talk about during the presentation about the importance of the data, and the data is the foundation of a personalization experience education. So how is Ontology collecting the data, and how is the institution is going to be able to use it in a meaningful way? It help us to make better decisions.
Yeah, so let me emphasize, I think I may have mentioned it at least twice in my opening remarks, that first of all, you own the data, you as our client. So one of our college or university partners owns their own data. We don't own the data, and that's extraordinarily important. I heard that mentioned before we started, the importance of leveraging technology in a proper way, and especially data. So that's critically important. And we have all kinds of standards and cybersecurity that we put in place. We can talk more about that as necessary. But under that kind of caveat that the data is owned by the institution, we use the data oftentimes to help us improve our applications. Let me give you a simple example of that. We have instrumentation in our Blackboard Learn Ultra LMS that will ascertain feature adoption. I'm just going to give you one simple example. Feature adoption. So we know when we roll out features, as we do on a monthly basis, how well it's being used. If it's not being used, we can determine how best to, for example, it may be the user experience or the ease of use of that feature. It's not hitting the mark. So we use it to kind of optimize our own solutions. That's one use of data. But more importantly, what we're ultimately helping to do here is create, you may have heard this term talked about for a few decades now, the comprehensive learner record, right? It's really starting to tie together those interactions that I mentioned, that Jim Milton may have had at your university, and start to build a view on him so that I can more personalize his experience and start to, some of the examples I gave around intervention sometimes that's needed. It allows me to do a better job of helping move Jim along his journey towards completion, for example, of a degree. That's what we're ultimately solving. And you can imagine with 150 million users of our solutions, we have a lot of data that we can really leverage, but more importantly, put it in the hands not only of the institution, but of the student themselves. And we have numerous examples where we're starting to solve what I call the supply-demand problem, which is the skills that employers are demanding versus the skills that the learner is developing through their curriculum, for example, to ensure that those are matched. And wouldn't it be great to have that power in the hands of the student themselves as well, because that ultimately allows for improvement of an outcome, in this case, getting a high-paying job, for example, in their area of study.
It's very good to hear from you that the data is protected, and since this data is growing exponentially. So right now, we are ending, probably on quotes, the process of where we live on the COVID-19. So what are for your perspective, what is the greatest impact that you see that will have the education from the long term after this pandemic live of things that happened to us and the things that we learned about these 2 years that we've been on the stuff?
Yeah, so do we have another 4 hours available for that? I mean, I know you're going to be talking throughout
not
the
really. No, we have 5 minutes.
Okay, so in a few minutes, and it's interesting because the reason I'm stranded here in a hotel room was I'm coming back from speaking to a number of college presidents in one of the northern states here in the United States about this very subject. I had a session with a number of presidents as well as trustees, their board members on exactly how do they position themselves for the next decade going forward, and it took me more than a couple of minutes to provide my perspective, but let me sort of net it out. And we have data to support this. I mentioned that study that we did, by the way, for UNESCO, also included, I think it was over 5,000 in total, students and educators as well. And it basically said what most of us know, right? Some of it was not necessarily new news. Like there is a high percentage of students. In fact, I think it was around 80% of students prefer at least one of their courses to be provided in an online modality, and in most cases asynchronously, meaning they could do it at their convenience. By the way, that's particularly important when you look at what we call in the US non-traditional students, adult learners, for example, who have maybe working 2 jobs, and they want some of their they still want to complete a degree, but they want to do it based around their schedule. That puts all kinds of pressure on a college or university, right? Because they have to also provide services and access 7/24, right? And that many colleges and universities were not prepared for this situation. So that hybrid education delivery ultimately means that institutions have to be much more adaptable. They have to offer different types of modalities, asynchronous, synchronous, on campus or on ground, hybrid of the above, competency-based education, stackable credentials. I could go down the list, right, of all the different techniques, but from the academic delivery side, it's very critical. But then equally important is on the support side of the students and learners.
So there are many predictions about the green outlook of the higher education, given the many changes of society right now, as you mentioned. So what are the outlook of higher education? This is my last question, but we'd like to hear your thought about that.
Yeah, this is a subject of great debate. I know around the world, certainly in the United States, right, with the cost of tuition having risen, student debt, $1.8 trillion of student debt that exists. So there's a lot of discussion around the value of higher education. By the way, all of the data, all of the studies would suggest, if you looked at it strictly from an economic perspective, the lifetime earnings of a typical four-year graduate of a four-year program in the United States, the lifetime earnings compared to somebody who doesn't have that is over $1 million more. The lifetime earnings of somebody who has a two-year associate's degree in the United States is around $600,000 more. So it's material from a return on investment perspective. I know you have some discussions on that a little bit later. That being said, that doesn't mean there's a lot of, that institutions themselves have to be much more agile, much more adaptable, much more flexible, offer all those different modalities. They have to personalize the education experience. There's more competition because as you go online, obviously there's more competitors. You break down those barriers. I know that's happening in Latin America, where there's more cross-country types of competition than may existed in the past. So you think about that, you as an institution or a college or university have to differentiate yourself on the content, on the way you deliver the content, and branding goes into that as well, but also the personal experience, the personalization of that experience to drive better outcomes. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is delivering better outcomes for the students and learners that you serve.
Thank you, Jim. I feel very well talking with you. Next week, we have a summit for ontology in Bariloche. Bariloche is in the south of Argentina. Jim Brigadier, one of the vice president from ontology, is organizing that event. I don't know if you will share that event, but we are very glad to the way you share your thoughts. And actually, we would like to have you here, probably in Argentina in the near future, so you can visit us and see by your perspective, with all your sense, how we actually work on the matters that you mentioned, and actually we share with the thought with you. Thank you very much, and we hope that you can come back to your house soon and safe.
Okay, thank you very much, all. Have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you. Jim Milton, CEO de Ontology Company. Edelmar, paso a usted.
Muy bien, doctor. Muchas gracias realmente nuevamente, Jim Milton, por su presencia. Y de esta forma damos cierre al bloque de apertura e innovación.